Cameron Planning and Zoning to order on Monday, November the 14th at 6:05 in the evening. First order of business, number one, we'll introduce ourselves as to our board members, who we are, starting on my right.
Tom Hamlin.
Stan Hendricks is not here tonight, he's one of our board members.
Okay.
Michael Dahl, I'm the chairman.
I'm Mark Gargis, I'm vice chairman.
Calvin Jackson.
Juliana Arndt, Board of Appeals.
Okay, and we have tonight planning and zoning. Oh, I'm sorry. You're on that board too, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Sue.
Sue Mannion, Board of Appeals.
Okay, so,
When you come enough, Sue, we just,
Hi.
we have a joint meeting tonight. Basically, it is a planning and zoning meeting, but some representatives from Board of Appeals are here, just trying to see how meetings are conducted and what we do, and some of this might be an overlap as to what they do also, so it gives them a better opportunity to understand kind of the government side of our group, so anyway, next I have on my agenda is the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. Number one, September the 12th, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of September 12th, 2022? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2022.
I'd make that motion to accept September 12th minutes as presented.
Motion second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Aye. I was not here that meeting. Motion carried. We now have also the minutes of October the 10th of 2022. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of October 10th, 2022? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 10, 2022.
Make that motion to approve October 10th minutes as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. The minutes of October 10, 2022 have been approved. Next, we have the minutes of November 7th. Looking at the commissioners that was present on November 7th, I only have 3 commissioners here tonight, so those minutes will have to be carried on to our next meeting because I do not have a quorum for that. Okay? Moving on, I was actually going to change around, but I think we'll just keep it as the agenda is presented to us. First item on is old business. Item A is the continuance of public hearing. Do I entertain a motion to go into public hearing?
I so move. Second.
Motion is second to continue public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're now in public hearing. And this public hearing has to do with access management. I'll let Tim go through it here in a second, but access management and parkway parking and driveway widths, and that's something that the board discussed in a public hearing. We started at our last meeting, if you remember. So anyway, in front of you, you should have some copies of what would be in the ordinance to change, if you so desire, and make that recommendation to council. Tim, do you have anything that you want to state?
No, just the changes that were in. Everybody should have received the copy of the packet. You guys should have received a digital copy. You want me to run upstairs and make them a copy real quick so you can look at it?
For
just this, or you can pass this along. There were some copies which we changed the verbiage for. Let me see your packet. Access management, section 3-347.1. Section E, basically, there was some words stricken from the code. If you go down to the second to last sentence, it shall be, well, I'll start again. Driveway shall not be spaced closer than 150 feet measured from the edge of the proposed driveway to the edge of the adjacent driveway, except that each lot or each property, if not subdivided, shall be entitled to one driveway. For the purpose of all distance measurements, the flares are considered to be part of the driveway. That was one of the changes that we made in that particular section. And then, if you go down to section F, the state's driveway width shall be measured at the throat of the access where it crosses the right-of-way line. Residential driveway shall have a width of not less than 10 feet nor greater than 36 feet. Flares meeting the city standards are required on residential drives. Commercial, industrial, and multifamily driveways shall have a width of not less than 24 feet. Turn radius meeting the city standards are required. Final size shall be determined by Planning and Zoning Commission at a time of site plan approval. If you guys remember, we wanted to keep that in there for commercial purposes because depending on the project, what kind of operation they're gonna have, we can determine at that point the adequate drive entry width. And that was all the changes in the access management. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Okay.
Any questions?
Anybody?
Okay.
Okay. It is a public hearing, so if anybody has any questions, or comments, you can ask those of us, and we'll stop and listen, so.
Any comparison to other communities, Tim?
It's typically the same standards. When these codes were written, they were written back when things were a lot smaller. So as you know, as construction development changes, so you have to adjust with the times.
Okay. And one of we did, basically in this, we did change just a few little things on footage and that, but I think the biggest change was that, instead of allowing city staff to make those changes, it actually comes to planning and zoning and site plan review. That way city staff gets to look at it, and planning and zoning gets to look at it, just like we do a lot of our other business. That way if something doesn't quite, one doesn't catch it, the other one hopefully will, so.
Yeah, and all commercial projects are required to go, new development is required to go before planning and zoning. And then for existing commercial development, depending on how much they're doing, they may be required to come to planning and zoning as well.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Okay. Hearing none. Tim, you.
All right, the other section that we had talked about was section 7-4-3, the parkway permits. We talked about striking that from the code entirely. I think that it doesn't meet, it's harder to enforce, and it doesn't basically coincide with the code, so we decided to strike that from the code as a whole.
Okay. And that was due to, there are, especially in the older parts of town, the existing parts of town, back in the day, there, like you said, there wasn't as many cars per household, number one. There wasn't a lot of driveways into the properties, those type of things, so parking along the street become a kind of a norm. And so this actually asks for each homeowner or renter to apply for a parking permit. And as we all know, that changes, especially in rental properties, that changes quite frequently. So number one, those individuals really didn't know they were supposed to do it in the first place. And in the second place, it become a real issue for city staff to have to police that. So one of the questions I think that came up before was, you know, parking on the sidewalks and that, this and that, but there are other parts of the ordinances that's already, that we already have that covers those bases, so, it manages, some of the issues that we thought that this might not, so. I think the board at our last meeting decided that this was a good thing to actually delete it, so. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Anything else that came to your mind that? Okay.
I did tell the board that I was gonna have this in ordinance form. I did talk to Shelley Blaze, our city clerk, and she preferred that we not do it that way. She just submit the changes to her, that way she can, it's easier for her to do it than me to try to recreate the wheel.
Okay. So any other questions from the board? Okay, I would, if it's okay with the board, I would suggest that, we give, if you decide to make this a recommendation to the council, that, yeah, we just continue the public hearing and allow Shelley to put this in ordinance form based upon the recommendation from the board, bring it back to us at our next meeting for just review to make sure that everything's there, and then it'll be ready to go.
Okay. So have her to put it in ordinance form before it goes to city council?
That is correct.
Okay,
Put it in, we'll continue the public hearing just in case we wanna discuss it, in case there's something there that, just for a fluke, okay? And so we'll continue the public hearing, the board allow, you know, looks like the board says, this is what we're gonna do, so we know that it needs to be put in ordinance form, okay? And so Shelley can go ahead and do that, bring it back to us at our next meeting. We'll have the public hearing again, we'll have it in ordinance form, then we'll be able to look at it and then close public hearing.
okay.
Does that sound okay with everyone?
That was great.
Okay. Okay. So, having said that, I am correct that the board is saying, yes, this is what we want to do, is make those recommendations for change, and to allow Shelley to put it in ordinance form and bring it back to us, and to continue the public hearing. Okay. Okay, I'd entertain a motion at this point to continue public hearing to our next P and Z meeting.
Make a motion that we, extend the public hearing into the December planning and zoning meeting.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. So you would do that. If that gives Shelley time to do it. You know.
Okay,
If not, we'll have to do it when she gets a difference. So.
all right. We do have just one meeting in December, the city council meeting, just to,
Yeah.
they canceled
So
the second meeting of the month. So,
we're gonna meet the second meeting of the month.
no, they canceled
No,
the
the
second.
second meeting is Christmas week, it's the
Okay,
nineteenth, so
so
they'll
there's
cancel
the first one. So
Yeah.
it'll be the 1st of January.
Hopefully,
Because we'll have our meeting in,
Yeah.
in December. So okay, we're still in.
okay.
We're still in it. So. Okay. I see no other old business. Do you have anything else, Tim, that others?
No,
on our agenda?
that was it.
Okay. Moving on into new business, we have a public hearing on a conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast at 620 West 3rd Street. I entertain a motion from the board to go into public hearing.
Make a motion that we, go into public hearing on 620 West 3rd Street.
Here's a second.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're now in public hearing on a conditional use permit request for bed and breakfast at 620 West 3rd Street. Okay, Tim, if you want to update us, please.
All right, just to start off, we did do the requirement for public notice in the paper and placing the sign out in the front yard as we were required to do. This is a public hearing for 620 West 3rd Street. In you guys' packet, you should have received information, a copy of the application. The applicant is Carissa and Darren Emerson. They are here in public. They are petitioning the city for a conditional use permit to run a bed and breakfast for that particular location. Attached in the packet with an aerial map to show the layout of the property. It is zone R2, two-family residential. You should have also received a copy of the zoning regulations, which a bed and breakfast is permitted in a R2 district. Also, you should have received a copy or some information regarding conditional use permits, not the whole entire conditional use permits ordinance, just leading up to what it was pertaining to. There has been a lot of questions and concerns about a conditional use permit for that particular property. It's open for discussion. Like I said, the applicants are here. I believe we have some people in the public who may want to participate in the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, the way I handle public participation is that I do, anybody that wants to speak has that opportunity, okay? As long as we keep it to the subject at hand, I don't cut you off in 5 minutes. I mean, if you have things to say and it runs over that, then I'm open and the board's open to listen, but you have to keep it to the subject, okay? You address myself, if you want to speak, I'm more than happy to listen, okay? So, start out with the board. Do you have any questions at this point that or do you want to listen to see?
They might also add something. The applicants did provide some handouts to the board. I started with Mark. They're different copies of information, so if you guys can circulate that and look at that. And like I said, they are here to answer any questions.
Okay. One thing I do, because I have not had time to look at these, I just kind of peruse through it real.
No, that's fine. It's basically just.
Where did these come from other than you? I mean, what did they come from?
Airbnb.com.
They're from the Airbnb.
Okay, so it come off of the website for.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
that's actually
approvals
all,
and accommodations
every,
and 5-star
that's
reviews
like
from,
every review
visitors
that
and
we've
customers.
ever received, and none of them
Okay.
have been bad
That's
reviews.
kind of
Yep.
that's where I wanted to know where it came from. Okay. Okay. At this point, like Tim said, bed and breakfast is considered to be under conditional use permit under R2. So if granted, would be a permitted use under conditional use. Conditional use says that also that there could be some conditions that the board may require for that permit if they desire to issue that permit or make that recommendation to council, because it'll be us holding the public hearing, it'll go to council for final approval, okay, from our recommendation, okay? So, having said that, I would kind of like to know probably from the applicants, I would like to know what you have, how it got started, kind of from the start to where we're at the present time. I'd like to know how many particular, do you have one space for one family, or do you have 2 spaces or 3 spaces, or what?
Okay.
What's your occupancy on that or something? So.
I do have a brief statement that will cover some of those things that I just wanted to
Sure.
kind of go over if that's possible, and then
Yeah.
if you have questions, we can address those.
Yeah.
The only thing
would
that
be-
it doesn't cover is how we started, and that's, we got a really big house with a lot of rooms, and we only have one daughter, so it just made sense. That's how we got started.
I think that would give, unless the board says no, I think that would give us an idea of kind of what we're trying to look at.
Okay.
Then after that, I'm not leaving you out of here, okay? So it'll come back, okay?
Then I'll just,
Do you want to come up to podium?
oh, sure, I guess.
This is our first time in one of these things, so this is fun.
Since high school. My name's Darren Hemerson, this is my wife, Carissa, and we're the owners at 620 West 3rd Street. We are proposing to run a bed and breakfast out of our residential home. Our bed and breakfast has 5 bedrooms, 3 of which we would use for rentals. Our 7-year-old daughter Sawyer and my wife and I have the other bedrooms. We have ample parking in our garage and our driveway to accommodate our guests. And we also have a neighborhood friend that said we could use his empty lot for even more parking space, and that would allow for 5 additional parking spaces in addition to the garage and driveway. Even though we have ample parking in the back, our guests still often choose to park on public side streets, and their bedrooms are closer to the front door and more convenient for them to use. And so they choose to park there and walk through the front door. We will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like a hotel. We have been mistakenly renting our rooms, not realizing that we needed a license or a special permit to do so. After receiving the notice to shut down, we closed our Airbnb listing. We admittedly filled some Airbnb reservations that were booked prior to our shutdown. We felt it wrong to run their already booked trips due to our mistake. Perhaps that was not the right decision. Luckily, our property is already zoned for bed and breakfast, so all we need is our license approved. While renting our rooms on Airbnb.com, we have earned superhost status, and that's a very hard thing to accomplish on Airbnb, and that's why we gave you those reviews to review. We've received many 5-star reviews to achieve this ranking, and we're very proud of that accomplishment. Airbnb.com not only has a rating system for the host, but also for the guests. So before a booking is approved, we're allowed to analyze the guests' reviews, and we have never accepted anyone with less than a 4-star rating. And we've had no problems with any of our visitors, and we gladly accept them as guests again. We enjoy this business very much, and Chris and I are hoping we can be approved to officially open our bed and breakfast. We believe this is a business that Cameron residents and travelers alike will enjoy and benefit from, and we hope you will all consider our request, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's all we really have.
I would say more, but I'm not much of a speaker, so
And she,
I wrote it, he said it.
she is the basic manager of the truck driver, so
Okay.
she knows a lot more about the ins and outs of the operation than me.
It's a fun job. There's no other job where you could go and do your job, and then afterwards they give you a 5-star rating, or you know exactly right away whether you did good or not. So
Or
I
you can
enjoy
play cards,
that
yeah.
aspect. Yeah, we normally
Play
have
Monopoly
people
with
sitting in our front room, and
friends.
we have like people that'll fix Indian food and Chinese food, and it's like more fun for us than anything. So it's an adventure. It's a good time.
Okay, so while you're still standing there, one of the things I caught was, and parking is always an issue with anything we do. Anything, makes no difference what it is. And did I hear you to say that, because, am I correct to say that the main street, which would be 3rd Street in front of your house, isn't that all posted for no parking
No
on
parking.
the
Yeah, they
whole
don't
street?
park on that street, they would park on the 2 side streets, which is either Mead or
Lathrop.
Lathrop.
Lathrop and
Yeah.
Mead, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
But
so,
there is ample parking, if we need to force them to park in the driveway spots, we can.
Yeah.
We thought that the side streets were public.
okay,
We-
so did you say, on your property, did you say 3 spaces, is that what you said? Parking
And
spaces?
ours
We
is
have
like
4
2 in the garage
driveway
and
and
4
2
in
in
the
the
garage.
garage.
Yeah.
Okay,
6.
but in order for you to move your car, say that, I mean, you're living there, so you have to
Right.
maneuver your stuff.
Mhm.
If you had guests, how many spaces would you actually have for them to park?
In reality, we could fit 6 cars altogether in our driveway, but we only do 2 and 2. That way they can get out.
Okay,
And we have an overflow parking that our neighbor
Yeah.
lets us have,
And that's-
which is
that's
the guy
5
that owns the
spaces.
electric
Where was that
Yeah.
at?
facility.
On
Can I show you?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually an ideal spot, and it has like 5. Okay, so this is us, and this is the parking right here. He has a whole entire lot, and he's not using that for anything. He said that we could use it. He's
got
very friendly.
electric line users that work during the weekdays sometimes, we still got plenty of extra space.
Okay.
And we-
Is that the one with the car?
Yeah, that's the one with the sort of
Oh, yes.
greenish.
Let me show that
Yeah.
right. Yep, that's it. Yep.
And does that parking space where the one car is that a total gravel parking lot?
Yeah, it's all gravel.
Okay. And it's basically, there's a house on that lot.
There
It's
is no house on the lot.
There's just a.
There's a house on
Completely
the lot.
empty, and he's thinking about like totally putting gravel all throughout, just for extra parking for his people too, if he wants to use that later on. He has parking there, but he was like, it would just be more uniform.
Is this,
That's his house, yeah,
This
that's
is his
the,
house.
Electrical,
oh yeah, I know what you
Lineman.
mean. I know
Yeah,
what you
lineman.
mean.
He's
So
a very good guy.
he owns this whole property.
Right. and a fun fact, I grew up on that lot.
That's
So
right.
that was my childhood house where that was, so it's kind of
Okay, so-
circles back around.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that.
And I have his phone number too, that I'll give you guys later, or whoever needs it later on. He said you guys can call him.
Most places don't. You know, I've ever said that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that set up, thank you.
Okay, any of the board have any questions up to now? Anybody? Do you?
No,
Tim, we don't have to be concerned with, them offering handicap parking or anything like that?
I mean, technically, if you're operating a business, that is part of the ADA requirements. You have to offer, at least a minimum one handicap parking space.
And the only reason why I mentioned that, you guys might wanna consider that, you'd mentioned that you didn't know
We have
about.
a ramp up our front
Okay,
steps.
you might wanna
Yeah.
consider that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have the ramp, and when we took it down because we didn't think we would need it, we thought about it. But then I looked at Airbnb and it's not required, but if it's required here, then that's a different story. You can put it back.
Would that have to be marked, just like with,
You would have-
wheelchair access?
Yeah, like I said, if you're running a business, you're required to have make ADA accessible, like
Okay,
the
that's
restrooms.
not a problem. That's just
Then we may have to.
So like whether it's an access ramp
In
or,
our driveway.
yeah. We could do that. Yeah, with those 5 extra spaces, we could pretty much do all the right side being handicap parking, and then the left side would be our parking for our
1 to
vehicle.
25 spots is just one requirement. I mean, one handicap parking spot.
Okay, we just need one, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Mhm.
just one.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
So with the opportunity to rent basically 3 bedrooms, is that what you said,
3
correct?
bedrooms, uh-huh.
With the opportunity to rent 3 bedrooms, can you tell me up to now, do you have multiple vehicles that come in on each, I'm just gonna say each bedroom, or is it just like normally 1 car per?
It's
rental
always
or-
been just 1 car. We've never had more than 1 car, and at most you would have 3 people parking, because it's 3 bedroom, or 3 bedrooms.
Right.
But rarely do we have all rooms booked up. So you might have, 1 person parking in the garage, in the driveway, 1 person parking on the street. I'm trying to figure out, is it okay for them to park on those side streets? Is it okay as long as we have parking?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Anything,
If not, we'll just make them park back there, and
anything on a street that's not marked as no parking is open for anybody to park
for
on.
anyone. Okay.
I mean, that's just, am I correct, Tim?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so from that standpoint, yes,
Okay.
but we're probably gonna come back
Yeah.
and
Sure we
discuss
are.
this here in a minute. So, okay, anybody, any other questions? So basically, you can say, at this point, since you've been in business, or been rental, if you rent all 3 rooms, you've had 3 cars.
Plus ours.
At the most, yeah.
And
And
once
he's a
my
truck-
grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people staying there, like cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So you have family
grandma
there.
stays there all the time.
as
like,
well
all kinds
as
of
your
people. He has a
people.
My
huge
mom
family.
watches.
Yeah.
Very often.
Yeah,
They're always
and-
in and out.
And here we're touching 2 different things. We're touching family, plus we're touching
Right.
I would say
rental,
at
so.
the most we've ever had, we've had 5 cars, I think, once or twice.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question for now. Okay. Yes.
when did you When did it start? When did you start?
January,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, this year.
which works out good for tax purposes.
And I guess the question, have you had any feedback from people around you, neighbors or anything?
Thank
Yeah.
you, yes, okay,
Yeah.
so we have a guy that lives to the left of us, and I pretty much call him my grandpa. And, he has had no problems with it, he's all about it, he's even asked if his friends could stay at the house. We have, some people that live directly across the street from us, like on the corner, and, their daughter comes over all the time and plays with Sawyer, they have no problems. When we started this, we had people parking on the street, and then we had a neighbor come over and say that they were in their spot, and we were like, there's not really any spots, but we do appreciate the fact that you came over to talk to us, and so from then on, we tried to direct people, if they were gonna park out in the front, to not park on Meade Street next to our house. We wanted them to park kind of in front on Meade Street, because that's our friend that lives there, he says he has no problems with them parking there
And
whatsoever.
then next to it is an empty lot.
Yeah, and the other one's,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. And, so we tried to do that, but then we went on vacation to, we went on a cruise, and so we went away for like a week. And we had some people staying there, they started parking there, and I guess they were not, the neighbors did not like them parking there. So, they came to the door, the neighbors came to the door, knocked, they didn't answer, so they came to the window. This is just my understanding of what happened, because I wasn't there. They came to the, window and knocked on the door, trying to get a hold of people, kind of harassing the people, that were staying there because they were parking on the public streets. So, we had to deal with that. But then ever since then, we're still trying to direct them away, because we don't want to cause any problems whatsoever. Every once in a while, one will slip up, and they'll get there later on at night, and they have self-entry, and we don't catch it. But the next day, we tell them, go someplace else. The neighbors don't like that, go someplace else. And we're trying to keep it that way.
Do you have any
We try to be
signage
as
to help
many-
direct?
What's that?
Do you have any
When-
signage to help direct?
Through
Yes.
Airbnb, we have
I
directions,
have a picture of it, actually.
Okay.
but they don't always read them.
Yeah. I have a picture that says, do not, there's X's that say, do not park on the side street.
Okay.
Do park over here, check marks.
Okay.
And, yeah, and most of the time they get it, not everybody understands.
No.
Okay, I'm good for right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, from the public, I'll start on my left, and we'll move and it doesn't mean that if I ask you that if something comes up, you can just raise your hand and we'll address it again the second time, so. Okay, so we'll move on down. I know nothing, what's going on? Okay, just, if you would, just your name for our recording secretary here.
Oh,
So,
Robert Holloway. Would you like me to approach?
I'm okay if you want to stay there, so you can.
Okay. I just got a couple of quick things to go over. One, yes, parking, with your guests, is an issue. One, blocking the roadway. Two, actually parking in the yard is a big issue. We feel that being it is a business, that they should supply parking that doesn't take away from the actual residents. That is one big issue. Number two, right now we have a little discrepancy of a fence
park on Third Street, and they're not supposed to park on Third Street. Nobody's supposed to park on Third Street, but even she was parked on Third Street.
Let's take one at a time.
Sorry.
That's okay. We just want to try and keep it as orderly as possible. Mr. Holloway, what's your address so that we know?
624.
624
Yes.
3rd Street?
Yes, that is my daughter's house.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all I have for right now.
Thank you. 624. Okay, next.
Yes, thank you. There should be enough
You did-
packets for everyone.
You didn't have anything? I sort of cut you off.
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I asked him.
That's fine.
Yes, I'm BJ Reed and my husband Alan Reed. We're 702 West Third. We're next door to the Holloways. So we're 2 doors down from this Airbnb. The first page in this packet you will see is an email that I directed to Director Wimes dated Monday, August 15th. In that you will notice that that was after several complaints from the neighbors, and Mr. Wimes had directed the Himerson family that they were not to take in any more Airbnb business until they had a conditional use permit. The link to Airbnb, according to that date, after they were told to cease operations, that link was still active. As of 4:15 this afternoon, their Facebook page advertising the Airbnb and taking new clients is still active. That was never removed. So applying for a conditional use permit for an Airbnb that they'd like to start seems a little bit after the fact to me, since they've been operating since July without being legal with the city, even after they were told to cease and desist. I was directed by Director Wimes that they could be fined daily for every day that they operate after they were told to stop. And that is what I was told. This email is my communications with Director Wimes. Attached are pictures of many cars on the streets, sometimes on both sides of Meade Street, where our trash truck cannot turn, our emergency vehicles cannot turn, the mail trucks cannot turn, the school bus could not turn, the fire hydrant was blocked, and they were parked right in front of the stop sign. My husband's plumbing van will be parked at the tree, and they will park in front of that so that the nose of their guests' vehicles are up to the intersection right in front of the stop sign, which is against code, which you'll find on the last 2 pages, which are the codes regarding the illegal parking that I've attached for your convenience. My husband has highlighted it. All of these attachments show that they parked in our neighbor's yard on the grass. For us specifically, we went to a concert in Smithville one evening and got a worried phone call from our daughter, who was house sitting for us, that the Airbnb guests actually got out in our yard, walked around, threw a lit cigarette in a dry pile of our dry leaves, because we had a dead ash tree there that the city was kind enough to remove for us. And they walked up to our front porch and began to bother our dogs. There's the pictures on the second page of our front porch and how closely they park. You can see that they are right at the stop sign. This goes on day and night. It has not stopped. We went to Tennessee last week, and while we were gone, the last 2 pages are screenshots of messages from my daughter that there was a vehicle from Wisconsin parked right in front of my husband's plumbing van. They do this all the time. My husband's a plumber. When he receives calls late at night that somebody has a busted water line or their basement is flooding, he's had to go. I guess you'll call it harassment that a plumber needs to move his plumbing van to go to work. But the Airbnb guests oftentimes know people that live locally in the area, so they will park their truck right in front of Alan's van and block him in, where the back of their vehicle's butted up to the nose of his plumbing van, and they take off in somebody else's vehicle, and they leave their car parked there all night. And my husband cannot move to do his job. That is unacceptable. Officer Proctor was the one who took the phone call of complaint. from my daughter, when she called last Saturday evening. It would have been the night that daylight savings time was switched over, and I attached the screenshots for your convenience. This has not been a thing that has been something that the clients have pursued, have dreamed of doing. It's something that they've been doing without a conditional use permit since June. I believe our neighbors also have evidence that they own other homes, and that when they book on Airbnb, that they can book off the listing for the 620 West 3rd address, and then they're directed to go to other homes to stay when that place is full. So they're even booking for places that the city doesn't even know about. This is not acceptable. I don't mind if there's a business in my community. The parking should be their problem. If you address the last page that I attached on the code about parking, it clearly says, in the event that the driver or operator of the said parked vehicle cannot be identified or found, the owner or occupant of the real estate property on which said vehicle is parked shall be responsible for any violations described herein. They're receiving all of the profit from the Airbnb business, and they're accepting no responsibility for the inconvenience and the risks and the dangers incurred to our properties by being there. No, there's not any sign in their driveway directing Airbnb people to park there. In fact, if you check out the Airbnb listing, which I will gladly give you time to do, if you go to that link, it clearly states that there's ample parking on Mead Street, and their Airbnb directive still tells people to park there. My daughter and her husband have used Airbnb widely in their travels. Nowhere have they ever had a problem like this, because on the Airbnb listing, it tells you clearly where to park, and most of the time when you arrive, there's a sign there. Or there's a garage where you're given a key code when you arrive. This is absolute nonsense. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, questions? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm
Sorry.
Elaine Gerstenberger, and we live at 623 West 4th Street, so we're on the opposite corner of 4th and Mead. And we already have parking issues just with the residents of us that we have to maneuver because we're to park on the street. Any additional vehicles that come on our street, it's really a hindrance, like the rest have said, that when the ambulance had to come several months ago, it was really hard to get that ambulance down our road because of the way that, as narrow as our road is to begin with, Mead is, that any additional parking there, it's a real hindrance. And even for us backing out of our parking space, from our garage, if we have anybody parked directly across from us, we've got to pull up, maneuver to get onto the street, so we're not backing into the car that's parked across the street from us, which unfortunately has happened a couple of times. So that street is very, very narrow.
Parking's allowed on both sides?
Correct. I understand that. I'm just saying.
No, I'm asking.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yes. Thank you.
I reiterate something really quick on the parking.
Yeah,
I did some research on the codes. Yes, parking is.
Just one moment.
Oh,
Just give us your name and.
I'm sorry, Alan Reed,
there
702
you
West
go.
3rd
Thank you.
Street. Okay, I apologize. I guess, well, anyway. Yes, parking is allowed on both sides of the street, but under city code, if you have 10 feet or less between both vehicles parked on both sides of the street, you cannot park there, because you have to have room for emergency vehicles to get down between there. Okay? So I just wanted to throw that in on the parking.
And the stop sign.
You can't be within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, and you got to be no less than 20 feet from an intersection and a stop sign. I know, because 17 years ago, Officer Hal wrote me a ticket because I was 15 feet from the stop sign. Okay? So I learned that one real quick a long time ago, and it cost me $65. Okay? Live and learn. That's okay. But yes, just to reiterate, parking is allowed on both sides, as long as you've got 10 feet or more between the vehicles. Thank you.
Mike?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
First off, I want to say thank you for all the comments. I do appreciate. I believe that you guys are all good people, and you guys have a problem with the parking. And I think if I was in your situation, I would, try to figure out the solution also. So I appreciate that. Okay, I did find a sign that said, I don't know, sign that said where to park. So this is where all
This
of the
is
disgruntled
online, it's not in.
people are at. This is on our door. So this is where the disgruntled neighbors are at, and this is where I tell them to park. This is where our friend lives, and then on the other side is a empty lot. So this is where they This is where they live, and this is where we tell them to park, so it's not in the way. Yeah. So we're telling them to park, not in that area. We try to keep them away from there.
Yeah, and then you said something about online, there's certain checkoff points, it's publicized, right? Like you said, the green tracks as far as.
Oh, well, that was this. This is what it looked like before. I actually did some X's right there, just with an eraser, red marker. I did some X's right there and some check marks, just because I'm just like, come on, people, get this figured out, I think that these all of the neighbors are very boisterous people, and as well they should be. And I think that if there is any problems that have to do with the parking, I'm sure that they would have no problem calling cops and sorting it out. And I hope that would happen in the future. I feel like it's kind of people are parking in the wrong spot, and I'd be more than happy to call us and
Through a window,
yeah, we had no idea about peeking through a window, but call the cops if that happens, please, because I can't be watching them 24/7. But for the most part, we have 4 and 5 star people that live there, and I would hope that they would act like 4 and 5 star people. And to me, in our house, they always had. We've had no concerns. I mean, every once in a while you'll get somebody that poops in somebody, a dog poops in somebody's yard, but call me. I'll come and clean it up. I want to be responsible. I want to try to make sure that this is right. If it's a police issue or they're not parking in a proper spot, then please call the cops, tell them to repark.
And I just had one issue to redress. They said that, Saturday we have had no business at our Airbnb for at least the last month.
Yeah.
So if there was a car from Wisconsin, we have no clue who that is. It is true. You can come to our house.
In there all the
Well,
time.
I'm telling you, we had a few guests that came in that booked before we were shut down. But, we have had no guests. We do have another property, but we have long-term rental agreements with those people. And some people had wanted to stay
Yeah, we did
longer.
have month-to-month
And
rentals
we
there
redirected them
because,
over there because of this situation.
yeah,
And that's why there are no guests at our current home.
yeah, we have 0
We
people
now
there.
have long-term.
We have, at the other house, we had 2 rooms rented at the other house month to month, and one of the guys just moved out, and now we just have one couple that's staying there. They pay month to month.
When is the last time we've had a guest in our home?
I have no idea, 2 months maybe, I have no idea.
And the other redress was, yes, we are still listed on Airbnb, but you cannot book a room because we blocked out all these dates until this gets sorted out. Yes, we still have an Airbnb.com
Yeah, it's,
address, we still show up on the website, but
I
you
don't think we
cannot
show
book
up
a
on the
room because
website
we
anymore.
blocked off all of our abilities to rent for the next 2 months until it's.
as far as Facebook,
And
it's
you can
something
try,
we don't
look
do.
us up and try to book it, you can't. So
Yeah.
what they're saying is inaccurate.
Yeah, and then he was also saying that he parks his electrical, he has a trailer, an electrical trailer, and he needs to get that out, and I completely understand that. He'll park the trailer like right here, and then his driveway is right here. And then he'll pull up his van, he'll lock it on and drive away. So if somebody were to park right here, there's no possible way they could park right here, unless they were blocking the driveway. That's a whole other issue, but I wouldn't imagine anyone would ever park in a driveway, but he has plenty of spot to back up and,
And
as far as
As far as the Third Street parking, that's probably her mother that came over to
light blue Prius. But yeah, we see people, we even see, DJ at times parked there. And I remember saying, sure you wanna park there? You know, just because I'm like, we need to make sure nobody's parking on Third Street, you know, so it happens. People park there. I've seen everybody parking there, but it's only for a short period of
Like
time.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
To get something unloaded.
Yeah, I've never parked there
And
overnight
there are
or
times
anything.
we have to put furniture in the front door or
Yeah,
something like that.
right.
But I guarantee there are no guests staying there. You can try to
You
book
come
a
over,
room
you
yourself.
come over and
You'll find that
see
you
the
can't.
place. We'd love to have you.
I want to flip back. You mentioned, and this came up, that you directed guests, prospective guests, to other places.
Yeah, we have a place, it's not we don't do Airbnb. We have Airbnb at our house. We weren't doing it legal at the time, and we didn't realize it. But we have Airbnb at our house, and then, we have another place that is not considered Airbnb standards. There's a few things that are wrong with it. I would never direct any Airbnb people to stay there and then give us a review. It's just not reviewable. But
It's a
we'll
house
have
that's in
somebody stay there and say, we need a place to stay, do you know any place in town? And we say, we have a house, we can rent for you month to month. And actually, I actually have all kinds of text messages of them paying me rent constantly. So if you guys want that, then I can show you that too.
And those are
So it's a rental property?
It's a rental
Yes.
property, yeah.
And it's
There's only been
regular
two
lease, month-to-month rental.
people
Rental
staying
property.
there.
Rental
Yeah.
property.
Mhm.
And we have had an Airbnb guest that wanted long-term.
Yeah. And they're staying there right now. They stayed at our place for Airbnb, they're done with the Airbnb, and they said, we need a place here in town, and I said, we have a house. If you guys want month to month, you can do that, because I'm not going over there, I'm not changing beds or anything else. I told them, you're staying there for the month, you buy your own stuff, and that's just, it's a totally different setup.
Okay, so when they rent that, do you, it's a home that basically they just rent for so much a month,
Right.
and you're paying all the utilities and everything, and
Right.
utilities
They pay
don't change?
One person is paying $800 a month, not the biggest here. One person is paying $800 a month, one person is paying $500 a month. That's because there's two people in one room and there's one person in another room.
So
and
it's
they
just-
have a cat, so they have to pay extra.
It's directly a rental property?
Yes.
I'm trying to separate this
I know,
because, yeah,
it is. We plan on one day turning it into an Airbnb, but right now, I don't want my reviews to go down. I have like a complete 5-star. We have like a 4.8, 4.9, something like that. There's no way that I'm wanting people to stay at that house right now. We tell them right up front, this is a low-class house. It is, I'm sorry, we just got it going. We've only had it for, what,
3 months.
3 months. We've only had it for, yeah, I feel like it was long, from 4 months.
okay, so
He's better at this.
my bottom line is I want to separate, because I'm getting told, I mean, we're sitting up here listening to a lot of different things, and I'm
Right.
getting told,
Yeah,
but now we're throwing a different light on this because it is a rental property. It's a house that you're renting for X amount of dollars per month.
right. That's something.
And if
Okay,
we
so
are
that's
not
different than
allowed to
than a
run
room
Airbnb,
per
then we
night.
need to know the stipulations of what,
Yeah, if we don't get the
do
Airbnb,
we have to
then
have
we're
a
like
3-month
renting
rental, a
out.
6-month rental, how will we?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a rental property, so that, to me, I don't care about that, because it's a rental property, because we're talking about two different things here.
Right.
We're talking about a bed and breakfast, that's a nightly rental, or 2 or 3 nights at a time, like a motel, hotel, that type of thing, and then we're talking about a rental property,
Which
so
will
we're
happen
talking
in
about two
transition.
different, do you guys agree with me, or am I wrong? Okay, I'm right, okay.
But part
That's
of what
what
they
I'm
say is
hearing.
true, we are still listed online, we just are blocking everything out until we get this resolved.
I
Okay,
think if you go on
And I'm telling you,
Airbnb.com,
come
you
over and
won't
knock
see
any
us.
day, we
You
haven't
won't see
had
us.
guests for, I don't know, she's the expert, but I would say
Yeah,
at least
a
a
couple
month.
months, yeah.
okay,
So,
Uh,
I don't know anything about a Wisconsin car, but I promise you that's not
Hey,
anywhere
Mike.
else.
yes.
You can refer to the definitions, I mean, in our zoning ordinance article 4, there's a broad definition of boarding house. And it states a building other than a hotel where for conversation and by arrangement meals or lodging are provided, the operator of the inn shall live on the premises or in adjacent premises. I mean, that's not the definition of bed and breakfast, but that's almost similar.
It's similar,
Yeah.
you know.
But I don't fix, well, I guess I do fix breakfast for them, I give them cereal and milk. You don't want me cooking for
Yeah,
you.
but we're still, this is the first issue I wanna separate out, cause this was a big question, okay? So, Tim, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? You, the board, tell me if I'm right or wrong. But we got two different issues here, cause I heard that if we're filled up at the bed and breakfast, then we're moving, I'm sorry, you call it Airbnb, I call it
Yeah.
bed and breakfast, same
Either
thing
way,
to me,
same thing.
okay? So if we're filled up at the bed and breakfast, we send them over here, okay?
We've never
But the
been
bed and
full.
breakfast is a 2 or 3 night type thing, it could be a week, okay? But where they're sending them to is a house that they actually charge rent, like a rental property. Am I correct?
That's the way I understood it. They have the secondary
The
home.
only people that ever go to the other house are people that are long-term rentals.
Correct. That's what I'm looking at here, because I gotta separate these out. We're talking about two different things, okay? Even though they're sending them there, that may be true, okay? But we're talking about two different things. And the other thing is, we aren't talking about the other place at this conditional use permit. We're talking about this address at 620,
Correct.
okay?
And the
So
other
I
place is-
just wanna clear that up, that we are talking about 620 West Third Street and not a house, and I don't even know where it is, I don't wanna know, okay? Don't wanna know the address. But we're talking about a house that's rented for a rental property. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got that squared away. So that's, now we're back to square one at bed and breakfast at 620, okay? Hopefully you understand where I'm going, because we're sitting up here having to decipher what's going on here. So, now, the only thing I don't know is I'm being told two things. I'm being told that when Tim found out that he said not to rent, okay, I'm being told on one side, that is true, I didn't. I've been told on the other side, it is not true, you are, okay?
Well, we have
No,
had some
we-
exceptions. We
yeah, we had
said.
exceptions.
But, yeah, other than who you already
We
had
had some
all
pre-bookings.
scheduled.
And then we had month-to-month renters. We did have a couple of month-to-month renters there. We had a nurse that stayed there. She ended up getting COVID, so she had to leave. And then we had another girl, can't remember what her job was.
So let's just, and I don't care, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
So
Go ahead.
So the ones that stayed there after Tim talked to you were the ones that already had scheduled nights or days or
Correct.
whatever appointments, correct?
Yeah,
Oh,
because we shut
correct.
everything down. Yeah.
Oh, great, okay, so I got that. So then let's take it a step further. Were you told that you had to shut down completely and you could not you could not go ahead and make those appointments that somebody already had scheduled?
We did have that paperwork that said, I'm sure it said shut down. I don't know exactly what it said,
The
but
letter
yeah.
said they had to shut down.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
did
we
it
do
specifically
that.
say shut down, or did it specifically say that they had to shut down and could not continue to
Advertise.
I'll see if
hold
I can
the
pull it up.
appointments that was already guaranteed?
Let me try to pull it up, keep talking.
See where I'm going?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna make a difference, but I
sorry.
gotta figure this out.
And what about long-term rentals? Is that also?
Yeah, what is that for the future? Because if the
If I have someone
Airbnb
who wants
happens
to
to not
rent
be approved, we
for
would
6
like to
months.
rent our rooms out.
Is that different than the Airbnb standards, or is that?
It's different because you're a landlord, you're renting for a specified period, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year.
Is it, so 3 months is the minimum?
No, I don't
month to
think
month.
there's, I think it could be month to month, there's no time frame. I've seen in our language that specifies the rental agreement.
The length of time.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry.
Fun. No, I'm just- I think with an Airbnb being a new thing, I guess bed and breakfast isn't so new, but sometimes rules and laws need to adapt, and they just haven't completely adapted yet to decide how many, whether it's days, weeks, months, what it is.
The point is, I mean, this board and myself, we have to sit here and decide, because I'll guarantee you, I'm just always honest with everybody. There's gonna be a group of people that's gonna go out of here happy, and there's gonna be a group of people that's gonna go out of here mad. And they're gonna be mad at us or happy at us,
Right.
one or the other. So we have to make the best decision based upon all the information that we have.
I heard somewhere that the best decision made is where all parties are not quite happy.
I think a good resolution would be, where both of us are happy, so where, I try to keep people off of their, street, just like I was trying to, but just make it better known. When people do something that they don't favor, I'll give them my phone number, they could call me. If, it's something like they're parking in a fire hydrant, then, in front of a fire hydrant, call the police and they'll take care of it. I think with any business, you're always gonna have a situation where there's plenty of parking, but still people choose to park other places, and they're not gonna park right exactly as they are expected to.
Tim, on,
Honestly, we don't perimeter things.
yeah, Tim, on, and I don't mean to demean this, but on a regular business, you know, when we have other site plans come in, you know, it's always based so many parking spaces per square feet.
Mm-hmm.
How does this size up? Is it sized up the same way?
I would have to look at Article 24 to see what it,
Okay.
I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Well, will you write that down and
Yes,
get back with us?
yes.
Yep, Tom. Yes.
I know Tim explained this about the occupancy of that rental place, but something doesn't seem quite right to me about, I can see if you rent that to a single individual,
Mhm.
but if you have multiple individuals going into a house, does that not throw that into a different category somehow?
For conditional uses?
No, I think
No, just
for rent and rental.
just as far as
We're talking
whether or
about the
not
other
it's considered a rental, or whether it's not considered a regular rental.
It'll be no different than not a hotel, but a apartment building on downtown 3rd Street. I think the building on the 3rd and southeast corner of Cherry, you know, you got a business down below, you got apartments upstairs, same concept.
Okay.
You know, I don't know, we as staff can't go to every rental place and how long is your lease for? I mean, that's an agreement between the landlord and the tenant,
Right.
you know, whether their lease agreements for 3 months, 6 months, or a year.
But
May I
on an
speak?
R2, you know, you're only allowed to have 2 families.
Yeah, 2 duplexes,
Yeah,
a single family or duplex.
yeah. So I guess going to Tom's question, if there's 3 in there, does that supersede that?
It's still one structure. I mean, it's one structure just subdivided.
Okay.
I'd just like to point out here, I don't know where we're going here, but think about this. To your point about changing, the fundamental, whether it's bed and breakfast or whether it's Airbnb, it hasn't changed. You're holding yourself out to rooms, and you're gonna offer lodging and to some extent, some type of hospitality in the form of that. So I don't know where everybody's going in this about these other situations, but the issue that we're talking about here
Is Airbnb.
is, exactly, this is a bed
And
and
we just wanna
breakfast,
be
Airbnb,
directed
or whatever.
otherwise.
And the question
We're
is,
just trying to be directed.
this is, you are here because you would like to continue this business that you started. This group, and I don't want to put everybody together,
You can, we're family.
has some opposition to the question. And so I would like to ask, and this is, is this okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask, under what situation would this be amenable to, and I'm gonna call you the neighborhood? I know that some things have happened that have kind of gone sideways, and I understand how those things can happen, but I'm trying to figure out, if we're here tonight, what kind of, how do you look at this? I think we've heard what you've had to say, but is there some basis that the neighborhood would view this as an acceptable party? How does everybody feel about this?
Yeah. I own a business, like some of us in this room do. I don't have a problem with someone wanting to operate a business and to be an entrepreneur. That's what this country was built on. People being able to go out on their own, take a venture, take a risk, break, bleed, or blister, whatever it might be. If you succeed, that's great. If you fail, well, at least you tried. The problem is the safety aspect of the parking. If they want to have an Airbnb, then let them supply their own parking for their own customers. Meet their needs, just like I meet the needs of my customers. Mike meets the needs of his customers. You do that for them. We don't put that responsibility off on somebody else. You see, when these people get out of their cars and they trespass on their property, on ours, or my neighbors, and something happens to them, then that falls on our liability. And we're liable through our insurance for that. We're the ones that's going to get sued, not them.
That's right.
They're taking no risk in this venture at all. They're putting all that risk on us. And I'm tired of it.
Thank you.
I am sick to death of it. If they want to have their business, you operate it. More power to you. I'll cheer you on. But you find a place for them to park on your property,
That's fair.
not ours.
And keep them
But
off
where
our property.
is the public lines drawn? Because I don't even know when or where they're crossing or trespassing.
That's going to be your responsibility.
That's your responsibility.
That's
It's your
your
business.
responsibility as an
Oh,
owner.
okay.
We have.
No arguing, okay,
sidewalks.
guys?
As far as I
I'm
know,
done.
they use the public sidewalks to come to our property. This
Okay.
is the first I've ever heard of someone.
Okay,
trying to
so-
use someone else's yard and not using a sidewalk. That doesn't even make sense to me, but.
Okay, the chairman's asked you to be quiet.
Okay,
Sorry.
So I agree with you, you're absolutely right. We're talking about the one thing at 620. Okay, West Third, the bed and breakfast. The only thing I had to do was clarify that because we had questions on that, Tim, go.
They updated Citizen Serve, and it's totally different, and I only got one bar. But I know the letter said cease.
Okay. You know, I just wanted that information because I wanted to know, because of the questions that was asked or the comments that was made, but you know, right now, I just really don't care at this point. The thing is, what's done has been done. If it's been done, I don't know that. I have no clue, okay? I'm taking the word from different people. Out of everything that I've heard here tonight, it looks like the biggest problem is parking. It's like everything we do, it's always parking. Okay? Now, having said that, you guys step into me, be sure to keep me right. At this point, as we've touched base on this, the side streets do not have no parking signs on them. So anybody no matter who can park there as long as it's legal, it makes no difference. Okay? And I won't go back and say what's legal and what's not, we've heard that tonight. I've got it in front of me right here. So, how people walk up and, I understand from basically from trespassing, because that's what you're gonna consider, or what you're gonna call it. If they aren't walking on the sidewalk, if they are walking on the sidewalk, if somebody falls on neighbor's sidewalk, whatever, yeah, they're open for a liability suit,
Even on the sidewalk.
no matter where you're at,
Okay.
any part of town. If it's at my house, I get that. However, I cannot keep people from walking up and down my sidewalk, that's just the way it is. So, it kinda takes me right back to parking. So, we talked about conditions.
Yeah.
And I kind of cruised through some of the parking here, and I don't know whether Tim saw that or not, but, at this particular location, you have 3 rooms or 3 bedrooms that you can rent. So I would consider it to be basically 3 parking spaces extra to include your home, which requires 2 parking spaces. So that's gonna be a total of 5 parking spaces for the resident. Follow me, Kim?
Yeah, and I just pulled up the parking language. It says all commercial and service uses unless specifically indicated otherwise below 1 parking space per 200 square feet of floor area plus 1 parking space per 1 employee on maximum working shift. And then, like the bed and breakfast is not specifically called out in the other type of uses, so that tells me that they would have to follow this, what I just read. So if they got a 1,200 square foot home, basically 6 parking spaces.
And we have that with the extra spaces, this 5 spaces plus the 4 spaces.
So 6
Plus
spaces.
we park in the garage, so
6 spaces, correct?
No,
Okay.
plus us?
2 in the,
Okay.
3
I'm
plus
gonna-
2. Oh,
Cause we're gonna have to sit here
even
and
if
work
it's
this
6,
out, and like I said, there's gonna be,
covered.
if, under conditional use, I'm just saying if, okay? If this board would decide to approve the conditional use permit with 6 parking spaces, this is just an example. With 6 parking spaces, and that means off-street parking spaces. That means spaces on their property, okay? I'm a little bit, I don't believe in parking on somebody else's property, like you, the example, that we have went through this with other
No,
homeowners in our town that you can't do that, okay? So if you have your home or you have a business, you have to, especially your home, let's just do residential, you have to park on your premises, basically on your premises.
out of courtesy. I mean,
Okay.
and we've always tried. I mean, I think even he will agree that I've tried to move them before we went on vacation, and we didn't even know that situation existed.
Hear me out.
Yes.
If this board would so desire, and they decide that, let's just say it is 6 parking spaces, then those 6 parking spaces would be off-street parking on your premises. The condition, that would be one condition. That means if it's monitored and those people don't do that, then your conditional use permit can be pulled.
Okay,
Okay?
With that
that means
parking-
that they're not allowed to park on the public street.
That means that you have to have 6 parking spaces and they have to park on your property.
Can that
How is
property
that-
be across the street from us?
That's not
if
your
we
property.
buy
No.
a property and park it across the
No,
street
'cause
as a
you can't park
parking.
cars on it. Go
Oh,
ahead.
he's talking about buying a whole other lot
Well,
that's
and
right
also-
across the street from our lot.
And I'm just reading the codes off, I'll put the information out there, I'm not picking sides. It says, all parking spaces required in this article shall be located on the same lot with the building or
It
use
can't be
served.
adjacent.
Except that where an increase in the number of spaces required by a change or enlargement of use, or where such spaces are provided collectively or used jointly by two or more buildings or establishments, the required spaces may be located and maintained not to exceed 300 feet from the institutional building served and not to exceed 500 feet from any other non-residential building. So basically, the bottom portion does not pertain to you guys, so it clearly states that those parking spots have to be within your, on your parcel.
Okay,
So,
so we have those.
yeah,
We have 4 right there, and then my husband always parks in the garage because he just leaves his truck in the garage because he's a truck driver, he's never home. So it's just my car, and I park way on the side, so it's still, we have an additional parking spot just for my car, where I wouldn't have anybody else park, but I park there. And then we have the two.
What
two
about, could we, as owners, park on a street somewhere?
Like
walk
they
home
park their
and leave
trailer
our
and
parking
their van
for
on
our
the street,
guests.
and we park our cars on the street like they park their van and their trailer. Then,
I mean, if it's public parking, anybody can park on a public street, but if you're
But
specifically
there's that
asking,
for the business, they
for
want
your
us
business.
to provide for our
yeah,
I feel
guests,
like
would
I-
that leave us open to park?
yeah.
If that's the
somewhere
case, what's the use of having the conditional use permit of limiting it to 6 parking places? If that's the case, what's the point?
Because, here's the reason why. Because this board can say, under the conditions, an example, that you have to have 6 parking spaces, you have to have 10 parking spaces, and you have to park all your automobiles in those parking spaces.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it can say that, if the board desires to do that. I'm trying to make everybody happy. I'm never gonna make everybody happy. Now, I'm gonna say this, I've been to a lot of places with a lot of bed and breakfasts, okay? And I never wanna use personal stuff. I've been a lot of places with a lot of bed and breakfasts, and I've stayed in several of them. And literally, I'm gonna tell you, they park on the street, they park everywhere they possibly can. That's just the way it is, and when I park, that's the way I park too. And most of them don't have an off-street parking. You park in the street. And they're literally streets are wide enough to get maybe one car through, as you drive through, and that's just the way it is. But we gotta sit here and work this out, so, I mean, we got someone that's wanting to run a business, and we got people that's lived in the area for a lot of years. So we gotta try, if we possibly can, to work it out to where everybody can work this out, so they can run their business, and you can have your life too. Okay? Now, as I look at it, is it fair to say that you can park your cars in the street, but they can't park their cars in the street? So now we're looking at a different subject. That's not fair either. Because we know that you can park on the street as long as it doesn't say no parking. Okay?
My suggestion would, and this is just a suggestion, maybe they can come up with a parking plan layout, identifying the 6 parking spaces with the ADA handicap parking spot identified as well. And, there's parking standards for parking spaces. I think it's 20 feet long and 9 feet wide.
Right.
So if you guys want to lay out a parking plan for those 6 with the one handicap identified, maybe you can show that to the board, and they can.
I like that idea. That will solve their problem, that'll solve our problem. We We can twist, things around to make it work. We're bendable.
Yeah.
We're flexible.
And then
We can figure it out.
when your clients, make their reservations, I would highly stress that they are to park on the property.
Right.
Have something written up. Maybe you can write something up, like an agreement to show the board in good faith that this is what we plan to do, and possibly share with them to
Right.
appease the neighbors, appease the board, and then everybody's happy.
Okay.
And-
And then what does happen if they don't abide by that? Like, do we
Well, that's.
call the
that's
cops
what I
on
was
them? How do we
saying.
do that?
Yeah, too.
But
How do we do that?
But, like they said, it's your responsibility to enforce that. You have to almost guarantee that you have reserved parking spot number one. Are you pulling a truck and trailer? You can park your car here, but you gotta park your trailer elsewhere.
Okay, so
not
I
in the
think
street.
we're okay with parking our vehicles on the side street and then having them park in our area. We're fine with that. We can park.
Can the handicap access point be inside a garage and painted? Because that would be the closest to the door, and we could put the ramp there.
And
And
you would have to lay all that information out. The whole point of that is because you wanna make it accessible for somebody in a wheelchair.
The only other option is then to come on Third Street, unload, and then go to park, and I don't know if the neighbors are wanting that, so to me, it
If
would
you-
seem like it would be better to go.
If you put in your
through.
garage, you put a sign out there, handicap parking in the garage, and, make arrangements for them to be able to get in the garage, go up a ramp to get into the building, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Just call it out on your parking layout plan.
And probably you could do too is when you register your clients, you have something in your registration that says that they park in a certain spot in that
Right.
park.
Oh,
Let's
right.
just name them 1, 2, 3, and 4. That if you stay in bedroom 1, you park in space 1, then that's what you're required to do.
Okay.
And that way, it actually shows good faith that you went that one step further and said to your client, you have to park here. You've showed us that you've done that, you've showed these people that you've done that, and you just hope that you police it yourself
Right.
and that they do.
Yeah,
park
we'll try to
there,
do the
but-
best that we can
I
here
mean,
to police
there's
it, yeah.
only so much, and I think we all kind of get this, there's not only so much you can do.
Right.
You can't force them unless you put something in your stipulation that says if you don't park there, you basically have to
If you ever
move,
go to-
you have to go.
Can they get fined if they park there on the public street?
Not if it's not if it's necessary.
The only thing about
Okay.
them parking
So-
elsewhere, it's, putting your conditional use permit in jeopardy.
Okay.
And they can pull our.
Okay.
So
All right.
anything that you can think to put into that, you make your parking plan like Tim said, anything that you could put into your registration that shows where they need to park, that's
Yeah.
showing your goodwill and your good faith, that you're actually telling them what they need to do, and take your, what you showed us where you had it on the street off of your website or whatever you have it on.
Okay. What, would you draw up?
No, that's.
No,
What
you
kind of a
have-
plan would we have to put together? How do we get all the rules of what we need to?
If you go to our zoning ordinance, Article 24, it outlines the requirements, and I can send it to you electronically.
Okay.
And you can look at examples online and look at parking plans. You will basically want to measure out your square footage and see if you can get 6 or 8 or
Right.
more parking spots. Like I said, there is also the design requirements, like I said, 20 feet long and 9 feet wide. And there's also,
For just the handicap spot?
no, that's for just general parking spaces in general. But in the ADA, there's different requirements. Like if you park in an 88 parking spot, this section over here is reserved for somebody if they're in a wheelchair. They got to be able to get out and maneuver.
Okay.
I'll send you all that information.
Okay. Because we have to see if, you're saying it's 20 foot by 9 foot per
Yeah.
parking space?
Yeah.
Well, that's a normal parking space.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay.
what it's gonna design, that's what the other thing you have to figure out is, and I don't know where this is, I'm not sure, 6, I think a minimum they should have at least 5. We don't know what it's gonna turn out to be, but, it seems like 5 is logical. I know you did the 200 square foot, but they
And I
have
was-
3 bedrooms that they're renting. They have 3 of those and two for them. A minimum, it should be 5, and one of those has to be
Yeah.
What I read, and I'm not for sure what you were reading from, but what I read is that it should be a space for every room, and then a space for everyone that works there or lives there. So that would be 5. I've just always seemed it would be 5 altogether. So I don't know.
I don't know how
It
this will
was
work
under
out,
the
but
R2.
I think they should have
We
some
probably
idea what the
won't know.
minimum should
So I-
be before they.
Well,
Yeah. So,
this is something that actually. Can you guys give me 1 second because I have to prove something with my husband first before I talk it. Okay? Hold on, just a second.
If the handicap parking space is not gonna be accessible to people who are not handicapped, then it should be 6, because that space will only be available to handicapped guests, and they would only be staying there about 1% of the time.
Are you saying can't, do you?
Okay, so here's the deal. My husband has approved it.
not say
We
that?
have space for 4 parking spots in our front yard, and we can adjust that way. We can lay down some gravel and park there if that was.
You can't park.
Can't park there?
There goes our property value down.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our next door neighbor parks there, and he has a
They're not.
driveway.
Well,
Our
it
next
states
door
that
neighbor
your
has-
drive entrance or your driveway shall lead to the rear
Oh, okay.
garage or the side yard, not the front
Well,
yard.
that just
And
shows
we
that
have
I'm
an open
trying.
survey.
That just shows I'm trying. But okay, so
Yeah,
So
there's
I think
also
what
a
we've-
printing survey on that space involved.
yeah, okay.
But doesn't, Mike has a driveway, it doesn't go to his backyard? or
Yeah, it doesn't go to his
driveway?
backyard. It's
Some
just-
of the older parts of Cameron is, it's,
The front is too small, just
This is what I'm
where you take.
Oh,
the
okay.
right-
Yeah.
You don't have enough room to
Yeah.
park in
Oh, I was looking in
and
R.
new code, even though
R2
you might see
says,
something on the maps, and you might
like
see
it actually
something there,
says
the new
Airbnb.
code is not gonna allow it,
R2.
okay? That's the easiest way to say it.
It's not allowed.
Okay, so it's not allowed.
If they have 5 parking spaces available, why would they need part of the site?
We just haven't enforced it, we didn't know that,
Cars there, they wouldn't have to.
Okay.
yeah, if we have to force them to park in our driveway, we can, we just haven't.
Yeah.
Because they,
They
you know,
prefer
it's
the front.
easier to come through the front door and park on the side street than it is to come around. We have our house sectioned off as such, if they come through the back door, they're basically coming through where we live to get to the separate space. So it's awkward, but we can make that happen if we have to. But
It's just their rooms are just seconds away from the door.
hold on
So
for
I-
a second. Hold on. Pat.
I think this is what we need to do, I'm gonna have to go more.
Okay.
Let's. Hang on just a second. Hate to do this with structure.
no, it's fine. It's much more important.
So am I hearing that if this board can't do anything about trespassing, that's just gonna be a violation of whoever does it? From the neighbors, it sounds like to me, and we talked that parking is the biggest issue, that's the biggest thing, am I correct? So if we could fix parking to the best of our ability and monitor it, like I said, because it's conditional use permit.
Who monitors it?
Yeah, who would monitor?
Well, what would happen would be if there's, something that doesn't seem to be right, then like if one of you calls in and let Tim knows, and he'll monitor it.
Oh, yeah, we have all kinds of.
He was, so the plates could physically be run so that we could prove that that person that owned the vehicle was registered at their home?
We are gonna provide, if we do this, let me just back up again. If parking is what the issue is, if we could remedy the parking, would that make everybody kinda happy and we could
Not
move on?
really, it'd be better if it wasn't in the neighborhood, it's ruining the neighborhood.
But at the same time, you have to, it just goes back to like when we were debating the medical marijuana, you know, you may not like it, but if it falls within those guidelines, we as staff cannot turn them down because somebody don't like it, because we'll get sued. It's the
I've
same way-
seen the pictures of their Airbnb listing. I freaking would hire her to decorate my home. I think it looks freaking amazing. I would stay there if I had the money. I'm happy. I hope that goes great. My problem is, I don't want the guests walking in my yard, and they do. I don't want them bothering my dogs, they do. I don't want them throwing their cigarettes on my dry grass, and they do.
They're not good, classy people staying there.
No.
They are.
No.
And there are actually things that an
Sure, there's a
Airbnb
mix
owner can
of
do to
both.
keep their guests from doing that. When you stay at an Airbnb, you can rate your hosts, but the host can also rate the guests. And if there's a problem with the guests and they didn't park in the right place, then the host should be busting them for that. It's not our place to monitor it. And yes, we would want to actively know that the people that are parked, if they're not parked on their premises and they're parked by my home, I'm taking a picture of it and I'm calling the cops. I want it traced, and if they're registered to them, I want the conditional use permit pulled.
I think the best way to deal with it is his vehicle and my vehicle can be parked on the street. That way they don't have to worry about anybody parking on the street. And then the other people can park in the driveway. They park their car in the,
Ideally, you should have enough parking
right.
for all people.
Well, yeah, they don't have
To
enough
me,
parking for
that's
theirs.
semantics.
That's
But whether it's two Airbnb guests taking up 2 extra parking places, or whether it's theirs, the point is, if they're going to have a business, they should be supplying the parking.
Right.
With the exception being that
Without
We
we
supply to
can
the
monitor it a
people.
lot better,
Park on the
and
street.
we would know where we're parking, and we would know where not to park, as opposed to our guests who
But you wouldn't
don't
need to
have that
because
information.
you have all of the spaces required.
Right.
So they.
Right, so
That's
you
right.
you wouldn't need to park on the side street.
That's
You would
right.
park in
Okay,
your-
so-
on your
But
property.
So
they're
getting back
parking
to
on
my
the side
original
street.
question.
How come they can and we can't though? I don't
Parking
understand
is
that.
the issue, am I correct?
Because they don't have a business.
Safety and
They do
parking,
have a
yes.
Safety and parking.
Okay,
It's their business.
so what I'm
thing
gonna
to park there.
recommend we do. I'm gonna recommend, because it's not this board's responsibility or Tim's responsibility to come up with a parking plan,
Right, we can
Okay.
do that for sure.
okay? So, it's what I'd like to do is continue the public hearing, allow you time to do the parking plan.
Mm-hmm.
Tim could provide you with the information that you need, or tell you where to find it.
Okay.
Okay, to help you to do that. And then get the parking plan together with your layout, number one. Like I said, if you, at registration, if you have something that you wanna put in your registration, that actually shows your good faith to basically your neighbors, and your customers, and pointing them in the directions that they would need to be,
Right.
okay? And whatever you can think of that would help you to show that you are doing the best that you possibly can to allow your customers to have the knowledge to know that what they're supposed to do in
Right.
in your location, okay?
Okay,
Whatever you wanna do, that's your,
I think that's a
your
good,
job, okay?
good idea. Helps
All right.
everybody out.
Then, once that's done, and actually, our next, meeting's in December. The second Monday in December, and I hate to have I don't know, what do you think, or do you wanna do a special board meeting, or
Yeah, I mean, I would,
give them 2 weeks?
clarification. Does this mean that we as residents on our side of town that we've lived on for 30 years are not going to be seeing any more out-of-state cars and cars that belong to the B&B until this is approved and until they get their parking issue, until this gets settled?
That's Tim's deal.
We don't have any
So
control.
my-
We don't-
I don't.
Technically,
My
Tim has the
grandmother-
legal right,
Great grandma.
I was speaking, I guess that didn't matter.
I-
Technically, every day that somebody runs a business like this without a conditional use permit, they can be fined. I just want to clarify, so everybody knows the ground rules from here until this is approved, what's gonna happen for us.
Is that correct, Tim?
They were directed not to operate the bed and breakfast, so
And
they
they did.
And they did.
they should not be operating that.
Right.
They
Yeah,
did
it's
say
close.
earlier that they had some tenants there that you were fulfilling their reservations. You know, technically you should have been, that was not
Definitely
allowed.
should've been.
So, you know, this is public notice that you can't do that
Right.
until we get this resolved, so
That won't
yeah.
happen anymore.
That is correct, then, Tim?
Yes, correct.
Can I, okay, so, if I have somebody stay there that is a friend of mine, cause that constantly happens, like family members and friends and stuff, can I get them to write down on a piece of paper who they are, their address, or I mean, their
That's just-
license?
If they're
plate?
parked in the driveway, then we don't give a crap.
Okay, don't matter.
How come you guys aren't parked in the driveway? But we can't be parked on the street.
We didn't buy a home in the middle of the block.
Hold up for a second, hold up for a second. Tom,
If this goes through, will the city do a safety inspection of the property?
well, we would just do like probably a site visit, just for the parking and stuff.
We don't do anything in commercial property as a safety visit.
For an Airbnb.
No residential, nothing like that is done.
And,
But they will have a visit.
Yeah.
So are you requiring 5 spaces then? That's what they have to figure out?
I'll look at it, I was just basing it off a 1,200 square foot home. So, I mean, really, what it boils down to is how big is your home is gonna determine how many parking spots.
Okay.
And
I'll send that one thing that I saw that said differently, and we'll decide which one was the right one, cause I have another thing that says something different, so you can tell me why that's not working, or why, I'll just talk to you about it.
all the
We'll see.
zoning ordinance revert back to Article 24, which is the parking, that's what I just showed you.
okay.
So, I mean, that's the only way
Okay.
to place that.
but what if we decide that the long-term rental is easier? What would the situation be then?
And what,
Okay,
We'll talk later.
we'll do this. Is the board okay with having a special meeting in 2 weeks, 1st of December? December, I cannot. It has to be Monday, the first Monday night of the month is city council meeting. Can we do it Tuesday?
Whatever you guys want.
Which is, I don't know what that date is, but.
I can look.
Tuesday the 6th.
What day is that?
Can we schedule
We don't want it
Tuesday
November
on the
28th,
6th.
which is 2 weeks from tonight.
Move the
Is
my
that
birthday.
2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from tonight is November 28th.
What day is that?
That's a Monday.
Monday?
I'll be out of town, Mike. Well, Greg can run the meeting.
We don't
It's
have
the
to do that.
holiday weekend, a lot of people.
Not for us, is it? The 28th one?
Then probably
That's not
Tuesday the
pertaining to
6th
us.
would be the next.
Yeah, just a special, yeah.
It's stuff to ride in the
Next
park,
week
but that's
is-
gonna take some time.
Your regular meeting, but you're wanting a special meeting for the.
And it's my birthday. I'll be on the birthday.
Let's just put it off till your regular meeting.
Yeah,
Let's just put it off till the regular meeting.
Do what?
Just put it off till the regular
Regular
meeting,
meeting?
after Thanksgiving, and we could even put it till the first of the year.
Yeah.
I honestly feel it should be the
yeah, I feel like that's not fair,
Postpone
what they're
until the
saying, I
zoning-
know what they're trying to do.
I think it should be postponed until the survey is resolved.
I just have a couple thoughts, just listening, I'm sorry. go ahead. I'm picking up a nuance here that people haven't really talked about. You're telling me that how the property is perceived, mid-block, we've got that. That the guests see the property entrance at the front door. And you recognize what we're asking to do is say, hey, these are parking spaces, they're all gonna be,
In the back.
color coded, signs, 1, 2, and 3, whatever, very easy for people to see. You're going to tell them in your brochure
Uh-huh.
that there's limited parking in the area, and really, you know, as
Right.
part of this that you like very much just to do there. Here's the problem. If in fact, given the narrowness of the property, if they perceive it to be the front and you're parking them in the back, is this part of the problem that's occurring? They'll have to walk around the block to get to you mid-block? Or can they?
No,
work
they come
when
through
they
the rear
park,
door.
They'll be able to come in
Yeah,
that
they come
way?
through the rear
Yeah,
door.
it's
Yeah.
awkward, 'cause
They
that's
can
where
go
we live,
either
but-
way. They can go either way, but yeah.
Well, what I'm
I mean,
getting
they're-
to
they
is
have-
that if part of the issue is that the people are wandering around, it may be a design issue.
Yeah.
And in your address, think about if the people park there and
Right.
they've got bags, that they're, I know you say it's awkward, but that also says.
Well, they're actually coming in our front room, so that works out good. They come in through the lobby / front room. They go through the kitchen, and then the rooms are through there. So it's better that they see the lobby, they see the kitchen, and then they head to the back bedroom anyway. So I'm okay with them. They go through the back door all the time.
Okay, I don't have a problem with
Oh,
it, but
sorry.
it just seems to me that how people get walking on side yards
Mhm.
is the fact that they're parked here,
Yeah.
but they're walking in the front, when in
Yeah.
fact, you really don't have a good front entrance if in fact, the way it's kind of set up. And I just throw that out as something to
Yeah.
think about.
One thing that I wanted to point out is I understand how you guys are thinking that they're walking in someone else's property going to the side, but we have a fenced-in yard. So they go through. No, I mean I'm just saying they go through the front and they can go through the fenced-in side. They don't have to go.
That's
through there.
great, I am just picking up these loose threads, and I just want everybody to be
No, I think the
reasonably.
main problem is they do park in the front, and that's on our neighbors, where they like to park in their property lines, and they come through the front entrance as it says right now. Most people park on the side streets. We haven't directed them to force them to park
They
in
park
our
on the side
designated
street
area.
and walk right through our yard and peek in our windows
Yeah,
on
and
the way. to
Their
their
Airbnb
yard.
listing lists Mead Street as the designated place for them to park, and they get out of the car, tramp through both of our yards, and then head to the front door.
Right, well, the front is on Third Street, not on
Correct.
Main Street.
That's-
Right.
Right, so either way they have to walk, so if they have to walk, might as well limit to your property.
Or park on the side, or walk on the sidewalk, not through our yard and looking in our windows. And plus, I would like this all on hold until our survey gets taken care of, because we have a property line dispute with these people.
I'm not sure where this fits into it.
Yeah, either way, it's gonna be an Airbnb, whether the property line is shorter or bigger. I don't understand what that concern is.
Okay, what'd you say, the 28th is 2 weeks?
The 28th is 2 weeks from tonight, or Monday night. But Tim will be gone.
You'll be here.
No, I'll be driving back from Colorado.
You'll be here on the 28th. What'd you do?
When's Thanksgiving?
What's that?
Next
25th.
That's the reason why I'm gonna be in Colorado.
Everybody's name down here, first and last name.
So that works for you? Monday the 28th? Friday? Stu, Monday the 28th.
Oh,
Do you need
December?
my phone numbers too?
No.
November.
I won't be here, Mike, but Greg.
November 28th at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
asking us.
Let's do November 28th at 6 o'clock. Let's try to fit 5 spaces and 1 handicap on the premises.
On the cement pad, correct? Not on the grass?
Not in the front yard.
So we have to have.
Right,
Yeah, but-
please specify
In the
that.
back, there's a strip of grass between us and them, and we don't want them trying to expand their parking by parking in the grass, because we already had that issue before. So can we specify that it has to be on their concrete area, their drive?
Yeah, it definitely has to be concrete or.
Yeah, that's already
gravel.
addressed in the zoning ordinance.
But nobody enforces that.
We do, believe it or
They
not.
do.
Oh, yeah, I do.
It may not appear to be.
It doesn't
If
appear
they put gravel in that grassy area, then when the zoning, when the thing
All right,
is
Mike.
settled and they're too far
All right.
down,
Is that,
you can have gravel on your property.
right.
The 28th is only like one Sunday away, is that, or one Monday?
No, it's 2 weeks from now.
And we have to have, is that just where we're coming back to bring the plans? We have to have that done before
You
that?
can just draw it out, it doesn't have to be,
So we can do that in a minute. so
Yeah.
that's not a big deal.
okay.
All you have to do is measure your placement.
So we definitely can't use those 5 spots, right? Can we use those 5 spots?
Do they really have a structure plan? Oh. Okay.
It should also be delineated that those spots have to be 8 foot wide, was it 9 foot by 12? And no smaller.
Do you remember they've addressed this at the street treating us?
Oh,
Remember they said you don't have to
Okay.
have ADA parking for
Well, I didn't agree with that
residential.
statement,
Well, I know, but is that,
because somebody can assume that you're discriminating against them.
but it's residential.
It don't matter.
Well, you don't talk about
Okay.
because, yeah, they may not even legally have to have ADA.
I guarantee they do.
Talked about it.
Do you want email addresses too?
Just name and address.
They can just need a.
Who is this?
Alex. Thank you, dear.
Here's what I'm thinking. I've listened to everything here tonight. I've been sitting here now for 2 hours listening to this. And I can't, and this board cannot, I mean, a conditional use permit for this particular issue is a permitted use, okay, if so approved. And there are conditions that could be put on that, okay, which we've talked about. But I can't, nor can this board control trespassing, peeking in a window,
Right.
those type of things. We can't do that. We can't control that. I believe I have to believe what everybody says. I think all these people are good people. I don't distrust anybody. But that puts us in one whale of a predicament because it's what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing, I'm just seeing mad individuals against each other. And I hate to see that. And truthfully, I mean, I've been in positions, other positions where we don't want something, but yet it's allowable. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. And in this case, this board's gonna have to make a decision on whether it's basically a good investment, not financially, just a good investment for the neighborhood and for the applicants and the residents. So, in the end, whether somebody walks across, and I get it, I totally do. If somebody walks across private property, here again, that's actually the person that's doing it, it's their fault, not, in this case, the petitioners. So it comes down to the end that even though parking is the biggest issue, it appears, then it comes down to basically the good faith of their clients taking care of the neighborhood. And that's what it amounts to. So, if I make a decision.
God bless you.
Bless you, Mom. So if I make the decision myself, then I'm gonna have to weigh the good faith, and then I'm gonna have to weigh whether the parking issue has been resolved to its fullest extent. That's the way I see it. don't know what the rest of you see, how you see that. But I wanna see, like I said, I can't make everybody happy, but I wanna see the residents stay happy. I do, I understand that, and they've lived there for all these years. I also wanna see them have a successful business, because I've seen those businesses be very, very successful. And they're good for the communities, they're good for whoever, you know. Yeah, they're there to make a few bucks, don't get me wrong, but in the end, all of us can win, you know, because it's good for everybody. So, I guess in the end, let's do that, like we said, put your plan together. I mean, if that's too soon, we can wait till our next P and Z meeting.
No, that's good. It's his
If you
birthday, that's
want,
the only
which would be
thing.
the second Monday of
We can celebrate your
December.
birthday the next day.
If you want to, and that's mighty fine
Oh,
with
is
us.
That's December 12th.
That's mighty fine with us, because
I'd
we'll
rather
wait till
wait.
December 12th. That's no problem. And give you time to put some,
Yeah,
your
we wait till
Trying to
December
put some
12th.
thought into
Yeah.
our
Put your
parking
thought into it.
situation, get people to measure, see if we have to,
okay,
you know, is it allowed to
Okay.
add cement to the back alley portion for parking?
okay, I think on that is, I think
Find that out.
this would be gravel,
We don't, it's all gravel.
off of the alley.
We don't have to add it, it's already gravel.
And, you know, and honestly,
They shouldn't be allowed to do
I shouldn't have done this, but I did, because I didn't know where this was or anything, so I actually took a drive-by just to look. And I think your alley, off your alley entrance, I mean, you know, there's grass there, okay, and you aren't supposed to park in the grass, okay? But our code says that they can.
But most of this grass is ours, so they need to park on that.
Well,
That is not theirs.
that's not neither here nor me, I don't care. Right now, if it's
We don't
on
feel
their
that
property,
hasn't been proven one way or another.
if
yet.
it's
We don't
on
know.
their property, it can be gravel, and they can park there, as
Right.
long as the grass doesn't come through the gravel, okay? And we have codes for that,
All right.
okay? So, and Tim can get you that, okay? But it can be gravel, so you can, possibility exists that you could expand that, okay, and park on that,
Okay.
okay? Because it can be on gravel parking, in the back. You can't park on somebody else for your business, okay? So that's just, I'm just trying to look at things that, I'm trying to look at this side, I'm trying to look at this side, I'm trying to help both out. That's all I'm trying to do, just ideas popping out there. So you might take a look at that and see if you can expand your driveway. I saw where your fence is at, I did, and it might be a chance that you can move your driveway to the east, I believe. There's quite a bit of space there.
Yeah, in the rear, you're talking about in the alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could,
Yeah, we
you know,
thought about
gravel it, fix it right, you know. Can you park on the street? Yes, you can. You're no different than any of these people. You can park on the street if you want, as long as it says no parking, as long as you meet the city code.
Okay,
There is no way that nobody can tell you that you can't park there, and this board cannot tell you you can't park there. Now, we can tell you have to do so many off-street parking for your particular business, and your clients have to, you know, that's their place.
Okay.
We can make that stipulation,
All right.
okay? We can, and that's what we've been talking about. So, and we'll try to accommodate that.
thank you so much.
And by doing that, we'll try to help their issue, off-street parking, so you can park on your property versus parking on the street, okay? So, yes, Mark?
So our next meeting will be December the 12th then?
Yeah, on a regular scheduled meeting.
So, not on the 28th?
No, no,
Okay.
So, anyway, so it'll be 6 o'clock, our regular scheduled meeting. If you get your information to Tim, if you have any questions, he can tell you where to get that information. That can
Okay.
help you. He's not gonna draw it for you or make
Right,
it up.
right.
You're gonna have to do it.
All right.
and then, get it to Tim so he can get it to us prior to the meeting, so we can, because bringing things like this to a meeting and
Yeah.
asking me to sit here and read it, ain't gonna happen. Or anything that I just got handed out to me tonight. I mean, to me, it's, if I don't have it in advance to be able to review it,
Yeah.
then as far as I'm concerned, it's just not information.
Yep.
Now, I have that information now, so I may cruise through it for the continuance. So-
Okay.
So that's why it's not fair for any side to make a decision tonight, so. Anyway, from the board, I'd entertain a motion to continue public hearing to our regular scheduled meeting of December 12th, in order to look at the conditional use permit at 620 West Harvard.
I'll make that recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, so we'll do that. September or December.
Guys, let them know.
I have, anything else, Tim, that you have?
No, I'll probably give you guys some updated information at our next meeting. We just got some information handed down to us, so.
And the ordinances, if Shelley hasn't done.
Yeah, yes, I'll have those.
Okay. Anything from the board? I just might say to the board that the, plans that been working on for the CID and 36 and Bob F. Griffin, RFQ for that, for engineering is supposedly was in today, to hire an engineering firm to proceed. Well, actually, it's to hire an engineering firm to fully engineer that intersection. And after that, next Monday, we'll have our selection committee, which is the board of the CID plus Tad and myself, will look and review those. It's actually on a point system, so my intent that day, because I have a difficult time of getting everybody together and on the same page, so I'll have the handout material for that day, for Monday, for them to review, and then we'll have to come back and make a decision on who to select after we all go through it. But my good intention is to be able to select, at some point, working with MoDOT, a engineering firm to fully engineer that intersection. I don't think at this point I'm going to get it on the January 27th application deadline. I found out this morning that there's another application deadline on April the 14th, and that's probably the one I'm going to actually hit, because there's too many steps in the MoDOT application process I don't think I could get it. It's just too tight. But I'm still talking to Michael Marriott this morning with MoDOT. He said if I hit that April, which we should be able to hit that one without any problem, he's been a great help, then I should still be in the pool for the 2024 50/50 match grant from MoDOT for that construction. So that's my goal, is that 24. So don't worry, can't promise anything, but still work in progress.
I sent you that Zoom link. I sent the Zoom link for Monday.
Yeah, got that. Thanks, Steve. Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Your second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all.